All right, hello everybody. Today's topic is all about protein, and I'll explain why. So, before we get going, I want to just let you know that my name is Tiffany. I'm a board certified and licensed nutritionist, and also the founder of Rock Bottom Wellness and the Total Health Reset. And I came to this space because of my own struggles, chronic struggles with a lot of the things we'll talk about today, and really never getting the help I needed, and I needed to take matters in my own hands and make sure to get into the things that I needed to in order to dig deep and to help resolve all of my problems. And I have been able to do that for the most part, and now I've been helping others do the same through various ways within the Total Health Reset in order to help them overcome their symptoms. So, and I've been doing that for the last 11 or 12 years or so. But today we're going to be talking about one of the most overlooked nutrients that we deal with and that we need to eat every single day. And I know it's almost like a buzzword lately. Everybody's talking about it, but I feel like people also get it really confused. And so I want to talk today about protein. Protein. It's a macronutrient. The other macronutrients would be carbohydrates and fats, right? We all know about those things as well. But if you're feeling like your energy is tanked, you're gaining weight despite eating healthy, exercising, your strength training, maybe your hormones are all over the place, the protein might be bringing in a much bigger role than you think. Okay, it contributes to a lot of things, and we'll go through some of those as well. So I'll break it down for you today. I'm going to tell you about what protein actually does, how much do you really need, when you should have it in your day, and then simple ways to get it without having to eat, dry chicken all day long or something like that. Okay, so it doesn't have to be quite that bland and boring. All right, so first let's talk about why protein matters. And first of all, too, if you are here live, let me know. Comment live below, and if you're going to be watching this on replay, also comment replay below so I can make sure to get you the information that we're going to be talking about in here today as well. So, all right, so let's talk about why protein matters. I'm just going to give sort of a high-level list and explanation of some of the things that proteins do, and the list is long, right? So I'll just go through the high-level versions of these so you can kind of get an idea, grasp the idea of how big protein is in supporting all of your body systems. Proteins are involved in every single aspect of your body, how you are showing up in health and how you feel. So proteins build and repair tissues. Okay, so this includes the skin, the hair, the nails. Everybody's taking skin, hair, and nail supplements, drinking collagen like crazy. Proteins or that, right? Proteins are the building blocks of those things, including your muscles. Of course, they are important in the production of your muscle tissue, and they also help with building and repairing organs, all right? So those are pretty important things, right? It does everything for your core structure. It also regulates your energy production. So that means that proteins are what makes your metabolism go. What makes it run. Proteins make the enzymes and other cofactors to help that whole process going. So if you are deficient in protein intake or can't digest it and break it down, you are going to struggle with your energy production, i.e. metabolism, okay? Proteins are key players in your immune system. Proteins make up what antibodies are, right? Antibodies in your immune cells are actually made from proteins. So that is another reason why you need to be consuming the right amount of protein. And this is one that people don't really think of really, but it helps to balance your fluid levels. Proteins help to regulate water balance inside and outside of your cells, right? You've got extracellular fluid where you might feel kind of puffy. If you have too much extracellular fluid, you might take a water pill sometimes. And then it also helps to balance the water inside your cells, right? So it helps with that balance so you don't have too much on the outside, too little on the inside, and cause dehydration. All right. Another thing that it does is we don't even think about it. It's just happening all the time. It transports nutrients. So one of the common examples is when we talk about iron. proteins will transfer iron out into the tissues to get it to where it needs to help you get the hemoglobin and have energy and oxygen delivered to your tissues, right? It also transports other vitamins to your body tissues, and then it also helps you to transport hormones through the blood. Okay, so those are super important. When we produce these things, we have to have a mechanism in order to get that to the various tissues that will benefit from it. Proteins also support mood and brain health. So our neurotransmitters, our brain chemicals like serotonin and dopamine are made from amino acids, which are made from proteins. Okay, our proteins will be broken down into amino acids so that when you consume them, you're going to be able to create these brain chemicals to help regulate your mood, your satiety, your appetite, things like that. All right, so that is super important for that. Detox. I know people might say, some people, if they hear this, they might say, well, you don't need to worry about detoxing, your body does it all the time. And yes, it does. It does. If it is fueled properly and if it doesn't have a lot of junk in it, it will help your liver detox the enzymes, the enzymes to help with detox are made in from the proteins and will help you get from phase 1 to phase 2 for liver detox by having enough protein. All right, that doesn't happen. You don't detoxify excess hormones and things like that unless you have enough protein in order to help with that detox process in your body. That does happen every second of the day. All right, the next thing is it helps to regulate hormones. All right, everybody's talking about hormones as well. I know I focus a lot on thyroid hormone as well as insulin and cortisol and sex hormones as well. So it's something that is really important, to have those all regulated and in balance, and that is no easy feat sometimes depending on the situation. So again, why I created the Total Health Reset to help balance all of those things and get to all the root causes, not just one or two. So regulating hormones by eating proteins is going to be really beneficial, or helping the process of regulating hormones. One of the things that's kind of overlooked, and sometimes people don't realize that this could be a really big factor in eating proteins, is that people will say how full they get, right? So it helps with your appetite, it helps with cravings. If you have enough protein in your diet, you're going to be more satiated, you're going to be more less susceptible to cravings because you are going to be full. And then one of the main things that I do, I have a glucose reset program as well. It's incorporated into my high level Total Health Reset, where we look at continuous glucose monitor data. And when people are eating ample amount of proteins, guess what? They have less glucose spikes. They have less energy drains or crashes throughout the day, all because protein is helping them balance out all of that energy. And then last but not least, and there's probably 10 others that I could add in here, but last but not least, we're going to be talking about preserving our muscle, or being able to build our muscle depending on how much protein we're eating and what we're doing with our muscle. But this is really important as we age, for longevity, for being able to function well as we age, and also to help with hormone balance when people are going through the different hormonal changes, perimenopause, menopause, etc. It's really important to consume enough protein, and then as we get older, we're less efficient in using the protein that we're getting from our food. So you've got to probably do a little bit more than what you would normally think of that you would need. Okay, so when I say protein is essential for fat loss, for energy, for hormone balance, I mean it touches just about everything that we need to have our body function properly. All right, I'm just going to check for any questions here. So my internet is glitchy. Hopefully, if anybody is on here, I can't see anything that it's not completely glitching. I can't tell it from here. Okay, so moving on to how much protein do you really need? Now, a lot of people just, especially women, we overestimate how much we actually are eating. Even if we know how much we should, if we get that worked out, a lot of people are just not eating enough, okay? And part of it is because of sort of the standard American diet really didn't focus on protein, and mostly focused on grains and that kind of thing, whole grains, whole wheat, whole grain rice, brown rice, that kind of thing. That is a lot of that what was been recommended for the last couple decades, and it's shown up in the food pyramids from back in the 90s and things like that. And it really didn't leave room for eating much for protein. In fact, it kind of kept protein up at the top, which was a smaller piece of the puzzle as far as what we're supposed to eat. And I think that's where we went wrong, right? Especially for women, when we have less muscle mass, we can lose muscle a little bit easier, and that is just even more important, like I said before, as we age. So it's really important to get enough. Now, a lot of people will say, well, if I get 50 or 60 grams of protein per day, that's good enough, no big deal. Now, that is not true. That is not true. We have so much more information that we need to have more and to actually feel and function better. That is really, really important. You want to actually feel good and you want to function well. You don't want to just, lose weight by eating enough protein and have a good metabolism or whatever. You want to actually be able to function. So what the rule of thumb is, and there's caveats to this, there are ranges for that, and there are some health conditions where this does not apply. So 1 gram per pound of ideal lean body weight. And what I tell people that is that not what it says at the scale or the chart at the doctor's office, but where do you feel good in your skin, where you are lean, where you can stay there without over exercising and starving yourself. Okay, so if you have to eat 1,000 calories a day or work out 2 hours a day to stay at that weight, that is not your ideal lean body weight. Okay, you need to increase it a little bit. So let's just say that it's 140 pounds. That would mean that you would need about 140 grams of protein per day in order to actually maintain your muscle mass, but actually be able to build some of the muscle, right? So the science and the research tells us that we need 100 grams minimum per day in order to maintain the skeletal muscle that we have. Just to maintain it, 100 grams. I know in working with women every single day, a lot of women are not even getting close to 100 grams a day. So if you don't know, you should get yourself a baseline, track your protein for, even if it's just your protein, you don't have to track the other things. Track that for a good, 3 to 5 days, and then find out what your average is, and then start from there and build from there. You need to get to that 100 gram threshold because that's what stimulates muscle cell protein synthesis and allows you to keep what you have, right? We do not want to lose our muscle. That will downregulate your metabolism and it'll cause you to gain weight on fewer calories, and it is just not what you want to do. And that is really important, especially for people taking GLP-1 medications. You have got to eat the protein. Even if you're not hungry, you have to do it. Eat it like it's your job so that you are able to actually lose weight and actually maintain that lean muscle mass, and you're going to look and feel better. Now, going over that threshold is going to help you actually change your body composition. It's going to help you get into the fat stores. It's going to help you build the muscle. You're going to have better metabolism. Everything is just going to work better, and it's going to look better, to be honest. Your clothes might feel even better, even if you're at not the weight that's in your head. If you think you should be at a certain weight, 130 pounds, but you get to 140 and you're leaned out because you're eating the protein and you're doing the strength training, you're going to feel and probably look a lot better than you did at 130 if you did not have the good muscle mass, right? So you need to eat that much because this will help support the lean muscle preservation, and it also will help you balance your blood sugar, because muscle is like a metabolic sponge. It's like a sponge for that glucose from your foods, and it will help you utilize it much better, balance your blood sugar out, and then it will help with hormone production, especially under stress, aging, inflammation, chronic conditions, things like that. Now, the one caveat is that if you are a person that struggles with like a kidney disease or have some kind of issue like that, or you've been told for whatever other reason that your doctor, for a medical reason, you cannot handle protein at that level, then you need to go by with what your doctor is saying. Do not follow these recommendations. So kidney disease, depending on the stage that you're in, or any other medical reason, you're told to eat a certain amount of protein. That is what you need to listen to. Okay, ignore what I'm saying. Okay, so one of the things we talk about in this group a lot is going to be thyroid, hormones, blood sugar. We talk about that a lot. I work with it every single day in my practice, and this is the connection between protein and some of those things. So thyroid hormone, something that is near and not so dear to my heart. I have dealt with that for years and years and years. I do not have a thyroid gland, and so I rely on hormone replacement medications for that, but I still need to get my protein in, okay? So we need protein because protein will provide us an amino acid called tyrosine, which is used to actually make our thyroid hormone, okay? So without enough of that, our metabolism will slow down, and the worst thing that happens is that we don't convert T4, the inactive thyroid hormone, into the active T3. So that is where we have issues, okay? That's where the issues lie. You need to have the protein help that thyroid hormone production. Other hormones. Basically, protein will support the liver's ability to break down that excess estrogen that can cause all kinds of chaos every month for most women, or a lot of women. We can become estrogen dominant, we become stressed, our cortisol increases. If we don't have the ability in our liver, because we don't have enough protein to help break those things down, we will struggle with other symptoms that will just slowly creep up. And under chronic stressful situations, which most of us are in, it seems like in this modern day society, you are going to struggle with that. So protein is essential just for that alone. And then I already kind of talked about this, but with blood sugar and insulin in and of itself is a hormone, and we need to have protein anytime we eat a carbohydrate to reduce blood sugar spikes and then the subsequent crashes that come with it. So this will lead to less cravings, less fatigue, less insomnia, less irritability, and less fat storage. You'll be able to get into those fat stores to be able to help your body out. And just like I said, muscle is like a sponge for the glucose, helps just clean it up, absorb it, get it to the tissues, and it'll just make it more efficient for you to use the glucose from your foods for energy. So the proteins really help us stabilize those ups and downs, so you feel balanced and focused throughout the entire day. Super important to do that. All right, so let's see, how do we hit that protein target? This is going to be a little bit different for everybody, right? Because everybody has different protein demands, everybody has different health conditions, different schedules, different stressors, and things like that. So you're going to have to start with where you're at and just try to make it a little bit better, okay? Each time, just make it a little bit better. So all of the stuff I said before matters. I wanted you to have a baseline understanding of the importance of it. If you didn't already know it was super important, I just wanted to give you little reasons why to make this part easier, to actually do the thing you need to do in order to feel and function better. All right, so first of all, I would say that if you are not at that 100-gram threshold, that is your first goal. So like I said, find out what your baseline is and then build to that. Just baby step it every week, add a little bit more protein to your day each day, and then get up to that 100-gram threshold, and then work to the one that matches the goal for your ideal lean body weight. And then, like I said, you can even work within ranges once you get past that 100 grams. And then, you're going to be doing so much better, especially if you're starting at a baseline of like 50 or 60 grams. That'll make a huge difference for you. All right, so the best way to do it is maybe start with one meal. Ideally, you're going to take that 100 grams of protein or that 140 grams of protein or whatever your total is going to be. It's ideal if you can kind of divide it roughly equally between the 3 main meals and potentially a snack if you need a snack sort of later in the day or in the morning or wherever it feels good for you, or if it's post-workout or pre-workout, something like that. You want to roughly balance out the main meals. So let's say you're doing 100 grams a day, that's about 33, 34 grams per meal. All right, and then if you could just modify that and have a 10-gram snack or whatever it is. It doesn't really matter if you go over the 100-gram threshold a little bit, not that big of a deal. But I would say start with where you're at, make it better. And I would say start with your breakfast, right? If you start out strong in the morning, it's going to be a lot easier. It'll set yourself up for better energy, better blood sugar stable throughout the day. So start with a breakfast and get that 33 to 34 grams as your minimum. And then if you have a bigger protein goal, you can, go past that. It's okay to do that. So you can do anything, but make it whole food as much as possible. You're going to look at, like eggs and turkey sausage or bacon or Greek yogurt or whatever it is that you kind of like and are drawn to, but prioritize protein first, focusing on the real foods, right? You can eat leftovers for breakfast even. Some people use leftovers for lunch. You can also eat them for breakfast. That is okay. It does not have to look like cereal. Does not have to look like pancakes, although there are some good protein pancake recipes. And I can put one in the comments. I will put one down there so you can whip that up. It's super easy and it's delicious. So make sure you're doing those kinds of things, focusing on the whole foods as much as possible, as much as you can. And then if you need to, of course, you can use a protein powder or something like that. I recommend not doing the ready-made drinkable proteins. They're not going to be as good a quality and can probably cause, some inflammation or gut issues and things like that. So I would recommend using a good quality protein. You could probably add some collagen with it if you want. Things like that are going to be beneficial for you to do in the morning. Start out strong for your day. Then you're going to want to snack smartly, right? You're not going to want to just grab a bag of chips or this is where people get in trouble of eating just carbohydrate types of meals. You're wanting to do or you're needing to do is just never eat naked carbs. That's the rule. Don't eat a naked carb. The carb should always be coupled with a protein and or a fat. Sometimes they kind of combine. So it could be hard-boiled eggs. You can make some protein balls with some protein powder in there. Beef stick. You can make like different kinds of dips and stuff for vegetables with, you can whip up some cottage cheese and put some seasoning in there to make a higher protein dip. Hummus, things like that. You can make it more protein-based. You can add a carbohydrate or a fat and or they kind of all mix together on some of these types of snacks, and that is okay. But try not to just have something like a cookie or a candy bar or something like that. You're wanting to have real whole food most of the time. I know sometimes it's not as fun, but when you start to feel better, you will notice a difference, and the draw to those types of foods will be, just not as strong. You'll start to have a different palate too. Also, be careful when you buy proteins and supplements that are like protein based and things like that. So here's just a little cautionary tale. I think I've talked about this before, but working with people who are trying to get the protein in, I tell them all the stuff that I'm telling you, eating real foods as much as possible, using protein labeled foods in a crutch or like if you're traveling or something like that, but on a day-to-day. If you were to rely on packaged processed protein labeled food, kind of greenwashed foods, you are not going to be happy. You'll probably get puffy, you'll probably gain weight, or you won't lose weight. And I've had people come to me saying, you know what, I ate more protein like you said, and I gained weight. And then I said, okay, let's walk through it. What are you eating? And it was every protein labeled product on the market. It was protein granola, protein pancakes, not homemade, protein cookies, protein bars, protein shakes, not just once a day, but maybe 2 to 3 times a day, instead of eating real food, right? You cannot replace whole foods with processed junk full of protein and actually have it give you the same effects. So you got to be careful with that, right? So one thing you could do to make this a little easier is to batch cook your protein, right? You could put a roast in a crock pot. You could bake up a bunch of chicken breasts or grill up a bunch of chicken breasts and just have things cut, dice, slice, whatever you want. So you always have something to throw onto a salad, to throw on with your plate with a side of, steamed veggies or whatever it is that you like to go with it. But you can batch cook as much as possible so you always have the protein. There should be no excuse for that. And I say that knowing that that is also part of the problem for myself. It's time, you kind of forget about it, you get lost in your schedule or the things you have to do, and cooking up protein might be the last thing on your mind. But make sure you try to make an effort to make it as easy as possible, like set yourself up for success rather than not being prepared and then eating fast food or whatever the quick fix thing is, because you'll never reach those goals that you are wanting to reach if you always go to that. Protein powders, people ask about that a lot. Again, the ready-made drinkable on the go type protein powders are a lot less quality. You are not going to, again, to do that on like if you're on the road, if you just don't have time, if you're caught in a situation where you haven't eaten and you're starving or whatever, that's fine. But on a regular basis, I've worked with people who are drinking 3 of those shakes a day to get 90 grams of protein in. They're not going to lose weight with that. Or if they do, it's going to be not in a good way. They're going to have a lot of inflammation coming in from those, because those are poor quality, poor bioavailability. You want to get a really good quality protein. And I have some good options for you in my protein guide, my ultimate guide to protein, and I will link that below in the comments so you can access that. But it also tells you, some foods and how many grams of protein are in an ounce of whatever food, so you can actually use a food scale, which you might need to do for a while to see what you're actually eating and getting the protein in. Because if you just hold your palm up and you say, I ate a chicken breast this big, that's probably not going to be enough to get you to your 35 grams minimum in a meal. So you're going to want to get a food scale to measure things out for a while so you can kind of get the gist of it. And you will learn that you have been overestimating your protein, which means you're under eating protein. Just by the look of it, you're saying, oh yeah, that's about 5 ounces, when in actuality it's probably like 3 or 2. This is a very, very common thing I've seen, and I've done it myself as well. So no judgment. Okay, so if you're feeling inflamed, if you're very tired, if you cannot get into those fat stores, if you just feel like you are frustrated and don't know what to do, get my guide to protein. It's $7. Okay, it's $7. It's jam-packed with information. There's coupon codes in there if you decide to get some of the protein or whatever. I highly recommend it. It's just like a nice straight shot of what do I do to get my protein in. So check that out. And if you are ready to dive deeper and actually get to the root of all the things, not just 1 or 2 areas, we deal with gut health, we deal with stress management and blood sugar concerns. You get continuous glucose monitors in my program. You get access to that already. And then also like liver support, things like that, and hormone balance. You get all of that in my total health reset. And so if you're ready to dig deeper and get to the nitty gritty and overcome all this once and for all, I want you to comment reset. If you want the protein guide, comment protein. If you want to get into information about the total health reset, hit reset or comment reset below, and we'll get that information to you ASAP. All right, so I hope that has been helpful. Start working on that protein. Start with morning first, and then when you get that down, go to the next meal and so on. Just keep on keeping on, and that's how you will actually get to your goals eventually. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You don't have to do it all today. All right, hope that has been helpful, and we'll be back next week with more information. All right, have a good day.